Formula One and the budget cap. This is the key focus of the first video of the week that will end with the Miami Grand Prix. The driver and technical market is now the suggestion that keeps alive the interest in a championship that is starting to resemble the past, given the clear domination of one team. Lewis Hamilton's surprising move to the Scuderia Ferrari and the internal investigation at Red Bull regarding the Christian Horner controversy have produced an unpredictable domino effect that was difficult to image until a few months ago. The highly likely departure of British car designer Adrian Newey from the Milton Keynes team after almost 2 decades is causing even more uproar than the market movements involving renowned Formula One drivers. The toxic environment, long hidden by repeated successes, risks imploding the reigning world champion team. It is no secret that Mercedes is making a strong push, with the clear goal of signing the 3-time Formula One world champion from rivals Red Bull. Team principal Toto Wolff is willing to do anything to make it happen, and he has not even hidden it, as the Austrian motorsport executive is even willing to bring in the historic consultant of the Red Bull team, namely Helmut Marko, in order to convince the Dutch world champion to take up the mantle left prematurely by Lewis Hamilton following his move to Scuderia Ferrari. A hiring at the limit of decency is hypothesized, just to properly pick up the legacy of the 7-time Formula One world champion, given the figures that have been reported by the media. The same goes for Adrian Newey, who has effectively received a staggering offer from the group of entrepreneurs led by Lawrence Stroll, in order to convince the British engineer to join the ambitious Aston Martin project, accompanied by strong support from Honda. From the perspective of financial regulations, both the salaries of the drivers and the 3 highest-paid technicians do not count in terms of the budget cap rules and restrictions. However, the escalation of expenses in areas not covered by the financial regulations is undermining the spirit of the regulatory body itself. The limit on salaries was designed to contain the annual expenses of the teams, which before the 2021 Formula One season exceeded $500 million for the top teams, primarily Mercedes and Scuderia Ferrari. At the moment when the best drivers and technicians are on the market, it is therefore very clear that many teams will never be able to afford to sign them. The budget cap fails to regulate many areas that determine a competitive advantage. If it were true that the Brackley team had offered around $150 million per season to Max Verstappen for the enlightened services of the Dutch driver, it would be the equivalent of the money that a team has available to cover the expenses of the entire Formula One racing season. It is highly likely that, when considering both costs included and excluded from the budget cap rules, the top teams spend exactly the same amount of money before the effectiveness of the measure. As often happens, Formula One preaches well but practices poorly. The much heralded and desired economic sustainability, capable of leveling the playing field, goes out the window when a mountain of money exits through the back door of costs not included in the financial regulations. So the question is, are market operations that move a similar if not greater amount of money than that theoretically set by the financial regulations ethically permissible? Due to random factors and existing contract deadlines, the market for drivers and technicians has shown the fragility of a regulatory body that aspires to achieve a very difficult target: the same regulation that prevents investment in environmental sustainability. In recent months, American businessman Zak Brown, who is currently the chief executive officer of McLaren, sounded the alarm, asking for some expense items related to sustainability projects and initiatives to be eliminated from the budget cap calculation without compromising the integrity of the cost cap. These should include initiatives and training in diversity, equity, and inclusion, activities for team well-being, and cost reduction for internship programs aimed at promoting access to careers in motorsport. The sport introduced a cost cap for the 2021 season, which is designed to bring the field closer together and ultimately create more competitive racing and make the on-track action more exciting. Red Bull infamously exceeded the cost cap in its first year and was handed a $7 million fine, as well as a 10% reduction in wind tunnel time for the 2023 Formula One Championship. Aston Martin were the only other team to go over the budget that season, but were only given a fine of $450,000 as their breach was proven to be much smaller. Since then, many teams have spoken about the difficulties surrounding the cost cap, calling for it to be increased as the sport is on its journey to be carbon neutral by 2030. The budget cap, set at $135 million per team in the previous Formula One championship, has the clear goal of limiting how much teams can spend in terms of developing and building their race cars. Before it was introduced back in 2021, the top teams in the league could spend multiples of that in a given year. It is a model similar to the United States sports leagues, several of which limit what teams can spend on player salaries, though Formula One driver salaries are excluded, and it is the work of Formula One owner Liberty Media, which bought the league back in 2017. Formula One's 10 teams each get a share of league revenue, brought in through sponsorships and media deals. They also collect individual revenue through team-specific partnerships, hospitality, and engineering efforts. Better performance on the track makes it easier to earn money, but it takes significant spending to get there. F1 teams expend huge amounts of capital throughout the race season to troubleshoot, repair, and improve the cars. Major upgrades mid-season can be costly, but critical to a team's success. While releasing their annual sustainability report a few months ago, the McLaren chief executive officer criticized the fact that costs incurred for sustainability initiatives sit within the cost cap, unless they are directly attributable to an existing exclusion. The Woking-based teams say they have held discussions on the topic with the sports organizers, its governing body, the FIA, and other teams, but their statement represents a very public push for change when a new set of regulations are implemented in 2026. Along with sustainability projects, McLaren want cost cap exclusions created for diversity, equity, and inclusion projects, team well-being initiatives, and costs for intern and apprentice programs to help provide pathways into motorsport and STEM careers, pointing out that Formula One teams need to find better ways to share expertise and insights across the industry. Secondly, a technical regulation should be reached that actively encourages the adoption of more sustainable materials and processes, capable of promoting the research and development of a Formula One car. These are topics that the world of the premier motorsport category is dragging its feet on, while unchecked costs are taking on dangerous proportions for the continued existence of some teams in the medium to long term. This is the much-discussed scenario that, if allowed to continue at this pace, has all the potential to do more damage than hailstorms, as the saying goes. The report McLaren released also highlighted significant progress for the Woking team in reaching sustainability targets, with a 22% reduction in greenhouse gas emissions compared to their 2019 baseline, along with a 9% reduction in air freight emissions over a 2-year period as a result of transporting equipment by sea freight. McLaren also revealed that 33% of new starters in the last year came from underrepresented backgrounds, while 6% of their workforce are now trained as mental health first aiders. It is now time for accelerated action and industry-wide collaboration that drives meaningful change in the next few years.